Hi, I'm Tom Donahue, your host for another edition of live election night coverage right here at PEG TV in Rutland County. Thanks for joining us this evening. I know that you have probably election fatigue. I'm hearing that a lot from people around the region, and I'm guessing across the nation, since this has been not only a local election that we're experiencing today and tonight, but it's been a national election with lots of ramifications that we may or may not have time to get into tonight, but you'll hear about that on your national news. Here, we're going to talk about local races. We're going to talk about statewide offices, and many of you have taken the time to vote today. Thank you for doing that. Many of you have taken the time to run for office. Thank you for doing that. And we're going to give you some results right now. We actually have a special guest in the studio who's going to also join us at this moment. And we'd like to invite on the program Mayor David Allaire. Welcome, Mayor.
All right, Tom, thank you very much.
It's good to have the mayor with us and, make local elections local. And so, Mayor, guess what? We have a couple of the wards here, and of course, your people are out there working on it right now as we speak.
Yes,
so
they are.
Your city clerk and your ward clerks and all the great people that are doing this.
I just want to take a second to thank all those ward clerks for all the hard work they did. This is a long day. They put in 12, 13, 14 hours, and from what I understand, things went pretty flawlessly here in the city, so I'm very thankful in hearing that, and so am I, and this will be an exciting night.
Well, I'm glad to hear they went flawlessly, so that's actually some good news right there to start with, Mayor, so thank you.
Yeah. We like to start out with good news.
Yeah, that's beautiful. But I am going to talk about, first of all, we have Ward in Rutland City, Ward 6 and Ward 7, and what I want to do is sort of cut to the chase a little bit, because some of what we're going to be doing is talking about races that affect all of the county, similar races like the governor's race. And Tom Leopold's just bringing in, who's the executive director here, also Ward 2 in Rutland City, which is the voting at Christ the King. But let me go with Ward 6 at this point. I want to just talk about, for starters, the state representative race. So one thing that these have in common are the statewide races. One thing they differ on primarily is justice of the peace, and then mainly we want to talk about the totals for, of course, the county senate, but more specifically for each town, the state representatives. And I'll get into the fact that the districts have changed significantly this voting cycle, and we'll talk about that when we don't have results to report to you, but right now we do. So let me get to that. For state representative in Ward 6, which votes at the American Legion in Rutland City, Mary Howard, the Rutland City Democrat, has won for all intents and purposes. Now, again, these are unofficial, I should say for the record. These are unofficial results, but we believe them to be accurate, or we wouldn't be reporting them to you now. But they do have to be certified and approved to be official. But we have Mary Howard, the Democrat, running in Rutland City, Ward 6, which is the American Legion, with 727 votes over Cindy Leveschuk, Rutland City Republican, with 484. So Mary Howard, Cindy you can help me with that. It's Leveschuk, right?
Yeah, that's
Leveschuk, is that close enough? I apologize to Cindy for really doing a horrible job with her last name. Leskovich. There, now I got it.
There
Leskovich. I knew I worked on that earlier today, believe it or not. Cindy Leskovich. Cindy has 484 votes in Ward 6, and Mary Howard 727. So if those were to stand, obviously Mary Howard re-elected to another term as representing Rutland City in that ward. And that ward did change its boundaries a little bit this past realignment that was passed in the last legislature. So again, Mary Howard, the Democrat, at 727, and Cindy, I'm gonna do it again. Leskovich at 484.
And if I could, I'd just like to, congratulate both of those candidates. That was the one race that we had in the House races here in the city. The other ones were basically unopposed. And, congratulations to both those. I want to congratulate Mary Howard on apparently winning re-election.
Yeah, and you're right, Mayor, and I'll mention the next House race. We have that's Ward 6, and Ward 7, which now includes Rutland's, it's Calvary Church, and I believe that was just William Knott running in Calvary. Let's see, so, yeah, so William was unopposed, of course, aside from what we'd consider write-in votes, and he received 1,094 votes for state representative. So William Knott is re-elected state representative in Rutland City, Ward 7. Calvary Church is the voting place with, as a Democrat, 1,094 votes. And then I want to just go to the House race for Christ the King. And again, I think this was Eric McGuire. Yes, Eric McGuire running for state representative, voting at Christ the King, Rutland City Republican, 1,368 votes. So those three are elected. That's William Knott, Eric McGuire, and what appears to be Mary Howard reelected in those three wards. Let me go back to 6, and let's talk about how the Senate candidates are doing. And a lot of flipping around here today, but we will get there because there is actually quite a few tallies here. So let's start with that one. Again, this was the American Legion, Ward 6, Rutland City. Brian Collmore leads the ticket. Senator Brian Collmore running for re-election with 664 votes, followed by Anna Taddeo, Rutland City Democrat, at 595 votes. So the two top there, the three top, I should say, would be followed by Bridget Remington, Rutland Town Democrat, with 510 votes. So you have the top three being Brian Collmore with 664, Anna Taddeo with 595, and Bridget Remington with 510. Followed then by Dave Weeks from Proctor, Republican, 452 votes, and Terry Williams, Poultney, 434 votes, and Joshua Ferguson, Democrat from Fairhaven, 429 votes. So again, this is District 6, Rutland City, and this is important because there's a lot of votes in Rutland City, and it does set a tone for the rest of the county regarding the Senate races. But Brian Collmore leads the way with 664 votes, Anna Taddeo with 595, followed by Bridget Remington with 510. Now, again, we're electing three, so there's your top three. That's one Republican and two Democrats. And that's followed then by Dave Weeks with 452, Terry Williams, 434, and Josh Ferguson, 429. So that's Ward 6. Let's go to Ward 7, and we'll give you those Senate races again. And once again, led by Brian Collmore. This is Rutland City, Ward 7, Calvary Church. In Rutland, Brian Collmore, 840 votes, 840 votes. Followed by Anna Taddeo, 727 votes. Anna Taddeo, 727 votes. And the third out of the six there, again, would be Bridget Remington, Rutland Town Democrat, with 643 votes, 643 for Bridget Remington. So your top three, again, there would be Brian Collmore with 840, Anna Taddeo with 727, and Bridget Remington with 643. Again, Republican and two Democrats. And then following them, again, Dave Weeks, 586 votes, and Terry Williams, 559, and Josh Ferguson, 547. So that follows the same exact pattern as Ward 6, Ward 7. Let's go back to Ward 5, Christ the King, Rutland City. Again, the Senate races. And Brian Collmore, I have to say, with an overwhelming margin here. Brian Collmore, Republican, Rutland Town, 45 years on the radio here in Rutland, 1,058 votes in the Christ the King ward.
Very impressive.
Yeah, 1,058 votes for Brian Collmore. And he is then followed by, again, Anatadio, 849 votes. It looks like Dave Weeks gets third there with the Republican with 749 votes, followed by Terry K. Williams, the Republican with 745 votes, and then Bridget Remington, very close, the Democrat from Rutland Town, 744 votes. And Joshua Ferguson, the Democrat, in the sixth spot there from Fairhaven, 602 votes for Joshua Ferguson. So again, Brian Collmore with 1,058 votes, Anatadio with 849 votes, Dave Weeks with 749 votes, Terry K. Williams with 745 votes, followed by Bridget Remington with 744 votes, in case you think your vote doesn't count, and Joshua Ferguson with 602. So that's those 3 city wards, the first 3 that we have in. And Mayor, I don't know if you see any surprises there. We have all of the other tallies, and we can start digging into these a little bit while we're waiting for some more results.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's anything. There was no other city issues on the ballot. I can tell you who's winning for Congress, which is no surprise, Becca Ballant, and that's Ward 5 in Rutland City. And let's just go to across the board and see if, because that's just an overwhelming margin. 913 votes. The next highest vote was 643. And let's just quickly go to that page for 6 and 7 here in Rutland City and see if they just follow suit. Let's see. Yeah, so Becca Ballant again in Ward 7, Rutland City, 769 votes for United States Congress. And followed by Leah Madden with 515, and frankly, the others aren't even close.
Yeah.
So it definitely looks like if this is any trend, we'll look at one more just to see if that's consistent, Ward 6. And I think we know who's going to be our next Congresswoman, or first Congresswoman.
First Congresswoman.
Yeah,
first
for
time.
that matter.
Yep.
From Vermont. And that is consistent. Becca Ballant, 622 votes. The Democrat running for Congress to replace it for the congressional seat, Peter Welch, vacated by Peter Welch, who's now running for Senate. And the next closest vote there, Leah Madden, 394, and the others inconsequential. So
Yep.
that's a. So while we're talking about it, let me look at the Senate votes. Peter Welch, again, same, very consistent, 770 votes to Gerald Malloy, the Republican, 437. So no surprise there either. It does, and I'll look at the last 2 just to see if that's consistent, but I think we can assume that Peter Welch will be the next senator from Vermont, replacing the long-serving Patrick Leahy. But let's just take a look at the other 2 real quick just to see if that's all consistent. And it is Peter Welch in Rutland City, Ward 7, 933 votes, and Gerald Malloy, 550. And it looks like we have another ward, so we're going to just jump right to that. But it does look like Becca Ballant will be our new congressperson from Vermont, and that Peter Welch will be our new senator from Vermont, not new to Washington. And so now we have this is Mayor Godnick Center, which is now Rutland 4.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the districts have all got different numbers. Our wards are the same, but the districts have got different numbers.
Right, and this is mine. So I was there this morning bright and early. Of course, I thought I was really early, and a little after 7, and it was, I think my vote was 495 or something. I was pretty impressed. Gosh, people really turned out.
They did.
But let's go to, since we're just coming off a state senator, let's just be consistent there. Brian Collmore, again, leading the Senate race in Rutland City, which is also this Ward 4 Godnick Center, also includes well, it's actually just the ward itself. This isn't a House race that includes the town. In this case, Brian Collmore, 648 votes at Godnick Center. 648 for Brian Collmore, followed by Anna Taddeo, Rutland City Democrat, 595. And then third there is, again, Bridget Remington from Rutland Town, Democrat. So again, the top three, you're picking 3 out of 6. You've got right now 2 Democrats and a Republican, that being Brian Collmore leading the way, followed by Anna Taddeo and Bridget Remington, 595 and 533. The next closest is, he jumped up this time, Joshua Ferguson, 435. And a tie as far as these unofficial results go, at 416 votes each, Dave Weeks and Terry Williams. So that is the Godnick Center, which is still a pretty big ward. And then when we get to the House race there, Paul Clifford, former Rutland City Alderman, former Rutland City Commissioner of Public Works, native to Rutland, Rutland City Republican, 812 votes. That is also going to be part of the new ward that includes some of the town of Rutland, along with some of the northeast corner of the city in this new ward, Rutland 4.
And I'd like to congratulate Paul Clifford if I could, because he's not only a fellow colleague of mine, but also an old personal friend and an usher in my wedding back a few years ago. So congratulations to Paul. I think he's going to enjoy himself up there in the State House. I think he's perfectly fitted, and he's going to represent us well.
Yeah,
so,
I couldn't
tip
agree.
of the hat to him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I knew everything up until the usher part in the wedding. That's great.
Well,
That's fantastic.
Just a little tidbit there.
Yeah, that's well, and I appreciate the fact that Paul did retire from his career, but then was consistent and willing to give of his time to be a public servant.
Absolutely.
And go to Montpelier representing Rutland City.
Absolutely.
And the town of Rutland now. Rutland City and the town of Rutland. We got
well,
got to remember that with these new wards.
We're all in this together, as they say.
The two municipalities now, which is different and will be interesting, but hopefully very fruitful for our
So
region.
if I could just say a couple of things before you go on to some more numbers. I had a chance to talk to Henry Heck before I came on here with you, and he was giving me some of the numbers of the Senate races, and it's falling in line for what you're reporting to everybody out there. But he also said that the turnout was really high here in the city, a little more than he expected. I'm not sure what the total is, but I think it was going to be somewhere in the 5,500 to 6,000 range, which is really good for a midterm election, and showed a lot of energy, a lot of interest in what's going on with the gas prices and everything else that's going on with public safety issues. So I think people were excited to get out and cast their ballot and have their voice heard. So that's very encouraging.
Now, since you mentioned that, Mayor, did Henry have to indicate a lot of returns coming in by mail? Because this is the first time that I actually, without requesting one, got my ballot at home. And that was quite interesting. And I brought with me the little form that we filled out, the affidavit of no ballot cast.
Yep.
And some of us got this when we got to the polls because we were asked if we had brought this with us. Well, this is my original ballot that I got in the mail that I was keeping for posterity. And I did have it with me. It was in the car, but the form was so easy to fill out, quite frankly, that there was no reason to walk in the cold all the way back to the car when I just signed my name to this saying, no, I have not cast this ballot, and clearly I haven't. Here it is. But I went inside to do it because I'm a little old-fashioned when it comes to that.
Sure,
and
sure.
I'd like to go.
So I think it was a little confusing for people. This is kind of maybe the first time that they might have been experiencing, these new rules that, everybody gets a ballot. I know they've done it before during COVID, but it's been a couple of years. So there was a little bit of confusion at the polls, but our poll workers, walked people through, and everybody was very accepting accepting of the changes, and so I think it went fairly smoothly, like I mentioned before. But the city clerk did tell me that they had 3,000 mail-in ballots at the start of the day already in-house.
Wow.
So that was a good harbinger of
Yes.
that it was going to be a good day and a good turnout. So,
Wow, 3,000.
3,000.
Wow.
So a lot of people handed them in ahead of time.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. Well, honestly, I looked at it and I found it pretty interesting, and it really did make it simple. I just like to go to the poll, be a little old-fashioned, so I stuck with that.
Yeah.
But had I not been, if it wasn't convenient for any reason, being out of town or some other reason,
Right.
the mail-in was really easy. And
Yeah.
and frankly, and I will say, signing the affidavit that you didn't vote twice, that was easy too.
Sure.
And the poll worker was prepared, explained it nicely.
Yeah.
Took 2 seconds, no big deal.
Yeah.
But it also gives people some confidence that that
Their vote counted.
the vote counted, but you were following a process that didn't give you the opportunity
Exactly.
to vote twice, which is great. So
Yeah, exactly.
no, I thought it was very smooth, and I haven't seen Henry Heck to tell him that yet, but I will. When
Well,
I see
I'm
him.
going to go see him in a little bit here, so I'm going to tell him for you.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you.
He does a great job.
So while we're waiting, looks like we got some more. Yes, we do. So what Chelsea, thank you, has done here, they've tabulated a couple of awards or all the city awards for Article 1 and, Proposal 2, Article 1, and Proposal 5, Article 22. Just to keep track here, the constitutional amendment to abolish slavery is what the title is here, and it was 64% yes and 36% no, 3,622 votes yes and 2,045 votes no. So that's Rutland City, 4 awards totaled for that item. So that passes, and I'm pleased to see. The other, of course, that's been talked about, constitutional amendment to reproductive liberty, Proposal 5, Article 2, yes was 70%, even more than the one on the slavery issue, 30% no. And that's 3,937 votes yes, and 1,691 votes no. So Article 22, Proposal 5, Article 22 does pass, as well as Proposal 2, Article 1, abolishing the amendment to abolish slavery, also passing. Let's see what we've got. Things are just flowing right in here, Mayor, so we're going to keep.
Yeah, the results are coming quick today.
Yeah, I'm very, very impressed with the towns around us. Well, here's an interesting one. So we're going to just talk about Killington, because that's a big, important place around here. Let's go to the Senate race in Killington. Let's see, it looks like top vote getter there is Anatadio with 334 votes in Killington. Anatadio, 334 votes in Killington. Followed by, again, Bridget Remington, 312 votes. Bridget Remington, 312. This is from Rutland County, Vermont State Senator. And then, of course, Joshua Ferguson coming back up again from those lower wards, 270 votes for Joshua Ferguson, 270, followed closely by, again, Brian Collmore, 263 votes. Brian Collmore, 263 votes. And then Dave Weeks with 214 votes, and Terry K. Williams with 190 votes. So let's say that one more time, trying to go in order of finish for the state senator in the town of Killington. These are, of course, unofficial results reporting. Anatadio, top vote getter there in Killington with 334 votes. Bridget Remington, second with 312. And Joshua Ferguson would get that third spot there with 270, followed closely by Brian Collmore with 263, Dave Weeks 214, and Terry Williams with 190. The state representative there, Jim Harrison, running for re-election, and he was unopposed and received 564 votes. So Jim Harrison is again re-elected to the State House with 564 votes from the town of Killington. And that is also one of those blended counties, so we will have other towns that will go into those vote totals as well. And I have those districts here. If we have time tonight, I can break them out for you because we did a little printing today. And this one here actually is Pollitt, and the district is called Rutland Bennington. So some of these districts have numbers, Rutland 1 and Rutland 2 and so forth, up through Rutland 11. And then some have 2 counties, and so they're Addison, Rutland. This one is Rutland Bennington. Gets to be a little confusing,
A little bit.
but we're getting it. We're getting it figured out. And so for Pollitt, in the Senate race, again, we're going to go right to Senate. It looks like, just want to make sure I'm not transposing my own numbers here. Anna Taddeo again, top vote getter there, and Pollitt with 343 votes. Anna Taddeo, 343 votes, followed by Terry Williams with 338 votes. Terry Williams second there with 338 votes, followed by Bridget Remington with 334 votes. Bridget Remington with 334 votes. So there's your top 3 there, which is Anna Taddeo, Terry Williams, and Bridget Remington. And then followed by, of course, none other than Brian Collmore, 272 votes, and Dave Weeks, I should say, 243 votes. And, well, I'm sorry, actually, let me take that back. The 4th seat is Josh Ferguson, 330 votes, followed by Brian Collmore at 272 and Dave Weeks at 243. So if I can do that in order again, Anna Taddeo with 343, Terry Williams with 338, Bridget Remington with 334, Josh Ferguson with 330, Brian Collmore with 272, Dave Weeks with 243. So that order is shaken up there a little bit there.
Yeah, a little bit.
From
Yep.
the big town of Pollitt, that is that Rutland
Beautiful town.
Bennington. Yes. Yes, it
It,
is.
it really is.
And let's see, so let me see what else we have in the way of a house race there. Yeah, so there is a house race there, and in case you're on the edge of your seat on this one, Robin Chestnut Tangerman looking to make a return after being beat last time by Sally Aki. And now it's Robin Chestnut Tangerman trying to unseat Sally Aki. And in the town of Pollitt, one of the towns weighing in on that vote, Robin Chestnut Tangerman received 418 votes to Sally Aki's 336. So Robin Chestnut Tangerman 418, Sally Aki 336. That's in the town of Pollitt.
So I think what I'm going to do is, now that you got a little bit of a break before some other stuff come in, just say thank you for inviting me to fill in a little bit of time here as you're getting all the returns in, and I'm going to head down and meet my wife and see the rest, how the rest of the night goes. I know you have another guest that's going to come in and speak with you, so I appreciate the offer, Tom.
Well, Mayor, we really appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate your city clerk, Henry Heck, and how smoothly things typically go with these elections and how smoothly they appear to have gone today. So congratulations to you and your city clerk and the poll workers as well. They
did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did a great job. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
All right.
All
We
right.
appreciate you.
Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so let me just, let me just give you that ward. Oh, looks like another one coming in, so we're going to keep going. And then I'm going to break out that ward over there in Pollitt for you. Okay, so we got that one, and then let's see. So this is the city wards totaled for the U.S. Senator, and it's an overwhelming vote for Peter Welch. 62% of the vote in Rutland City for Peter Welch, with Gerald Malloy getting 35% of the vote, the Republican running against him primarily. So 3,568 votes for former Congressman Peter Welch, now United States, running for United States Senate, followed by Gerald Malloy at 2,044. So Peter Welch getting 62% of the vote in Rutland City for United States Senate. And the results just keep coming in. That's kind of exciting, but this is also the United States Congress. And this is Becca Ballant leading again, as we indicated earlier. This will be our first elected Congresswoman from the state of Vermont. 52% of the vote in Rutland City. 52% of the vote, and that's 2,936 votes to Liam Madden's 34%, and everyone else trailed significantly behind. So the two top vote getters there, electing only one, of course, Becca Ballant, with 2,936 to Liam Madden's 1,911. That's for United States Congress, and that is the seat that Peter Welch is vacating to run for the United States Senate. And right now, Becca Ballant and Peter Welch are running strong in Rutland City for election of Congress and Senate, respectively. If I can, I just want to see if I can tell you the ward there in just outside of town. Yes, there it is. So we mentioned Robin Chestnut Tangerman leading Sally Aki in Rutland Bennington District. It is, that was the town of Pollitt. Included in that new legislative district is also Tinmouth, Middletown Springs, Wells, Rupert, and then Pollitt. So we still have, so that's the results of just Pollitt with Robin Chestnut Tangerman leading, Sally Aki there. But we are still be waiting to see the results of Tinmouth, Middletown Springs, Wells, and Rupert to conclude the entire district and who's the new representative there, whether it remains Sally Aki or if Robin Chestnut Tangerman earns his seat back. And they just keep coming in. It's very exciting. Thanks for watching tonight. And this is the results from Brandon. Just before I get into these, we also have another guest in the studio, another special guest, who's also running for re-election tonight in an actual contested race. So Representative Tom Burdett is here, and I'd like to ask Tom to come on the set with us now that the mayor has freed up a seat and gone on to meet up with his wife.
How you doing, Tom? Good to see you.
Thanks for being here, Tom. So,
It's exciting stuff. TV's new for me.
well, and I got to tell you, you have one of the races
Yes.
where you have 4 running for 2 seats,
Yep.
and 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. You're running Republican,
Right.
And let's see if I don't. Yeah, so we'll get to this one in just a second, but I haven't got results back, I don't think, from your wards yet, and I don't know what you may have heard.
I have some breaking news.
Beautiful.
and I don't remember the numbers from Clarendon, but Art Peterson won Clarendon. I came in second. Dave Potter was third, and Ken Fredette was fourth in Clarendon. Again, like 50 dividing everybody, 60 right in there. But
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So right now in Clarendon, you think it was Art Peterson, Tom Burdett, Dave Potter, and it was
Ken Fredette.
Ken
Yes,
Fredette.
yeah, that was
Okay.
the order anyway.
Now, I think I have that district here, and you probably know it off the top of your head.
Yep, it's, we used to have
course you
Proctor,
do.
and we don't have Proctor any longer. We have
Rutland Town.
3/4 of Rutland Town, along with West Rutland, Clarendon, and Wallingford.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what Tom Burdett is saying in that one with the results is that that's the result appears to be what we're hearing from Clarendon. So in order to complete that 2 of the 4 running, we will need the other part of Rutland Town, which is new to this district. This is why it's a little complicated tonight.
Yeah. And if I may, Tom,
Yes.
the parts of Rutland Town that are in District 1 now are the west side, the south, and the east side. The north part of Rutland
Which
Town
they call 4.
is District 4 now, is what, again, we call a hybrid with the northeast part of the city.
Which is where I live.
Yes,
Yeah.
where Paul Clifford is running.
Yep, and that was a seat vacated by Peter Fagan.
Right, yes, yes. And Tom Terenzini.
And Tom Terenzini, right,
Yeah.
for the town of Rutland. Good point.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yeah. And
I was thinking
Paul
of
is
Mike.
running uncontested there.
Right.
Lucky him.
Yeah. So we will be waiting to complete Tom Burdett's race here with West Rutland, that portion of Rutland Town that Tom just described. aptly, and the town of Wallingford yet to come in. So let's see which ones we do have. Oh, yeah, and this is the Clarendon one you're just referring to.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that, and we can confirm. And also, we have the Senate races here for Clarendon.
Oh,
so,
okay, yep.
So actually, looks a little different here. Clarendon, they call it Clarendon Rutland 2. Is that would be,
Yes.
yeah, that'd be 2.
Yes.
Yep.
Clarendon is part of Rutland too.
Yep. So they actually have Art Peter. No, you have it right.
Yep.
Art Peterson at 611. Tom Burdett at 553. Ken Fredette. Oh no, I'm sorry. Dave Potter. You're right. 516. So Art Peterson 611. Tom Burdett 553. Dave Potter 516. And Ken Fredette at 388. So
Okay.
there's your Clarendon. So that's the, as we were just describing, I have the two papers right here side by side. That is the Clarendon vote, which is then surrounded, and we're waiting on Wallingford, that portion of Rutland Town, and West Rutland, this new district, Rutland
Yes.
2.
Yes.
And for those of you, I hope you're able to follow along at home. This has been a challenge just for me to.
Well, and it's been a challenge for some people, that they are in a new district with the
Yes.
changes in the area.
Great point.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, there was a little confusion in the city, I guess, because there was some lines that were redrawn, so people ended up voting in another, at another ward, and they didn't know.
Yeah,
So
and
they
people had
went
to
to
move
one place,
around.
found out, and then,
Yes.
of course, had to
Yeah.
go somewhere else. But
Yeah.
it's,
I was one of the lucky ones. I had been at Godnick and stayed at Godnick, so I had it
right.
easy,
Well, and this being all new, it's the first year
Mm-hmm.
with the redistricting, and, my hope, and I'm sure it will, it should go smooth from here on out, because people will know,
I
they'll
agree.
know now.
I
So,
agree. Yeah, it's a big, big change.
Yeah.
And I should say the apportionment committee, the legislative apportionment committee, did not take the city's recommendations. The city, and I
No.
chaired the BCA on this, the Board of Civil Authority, as a justice of the peace. I participated in that.
Okay.
And we had it much simpler. It was the legislative apportionment committee that didn't agree with us and made it much more complicated. And
Right.
that's my viewpoint.
Yep. I'm not going to disagree.
But let's go to the state Senate races in Clarendon, because those are, a hot item here tonight with. So now Brian Collmore is back on top in the town of Clarendon with 733 votes. Brian Collmore, the Republican running for re-election in the town of Clarendon, 733 votes. And followed by Dave Weeks with 575. Dave Weeks coming in at 575. And then, and again, unofficially, Anna Taddeo and Bridget Remington tied at 353 votes each. The Democrats running in the town of Clarendon, 353 votes for Anna Taddeo, 353 votes for Bridget Remington for that third spot, if you will, because there's taking 3 out of 6 Senate candidates tonight. And then followed by, well, actually, I've got to recant that a little bit. I should have said Brian Collmore with 733, followed by Dave Weeks with 575, which I said, but Terry K. Williams, I just noticed, was down here at 571. So the top three are actually Brian Collmore, 733, Dave Weeks with 575, Terry Williams with 571, and then followed by Anna Taddeo and Bridget Remington at 353 each, and then Joshua Ferguson at 323 votes. And that's in the town of Clarendon. We did the House race on that one. So let's see what we might have that's new. These are completed results. And it is confirmed, as you heard earlier, maybe, Tom, that Mary Howard has won re-election
Okay.
to
I hadn't
Rutland
heard that,
District.
yeah.
Yeah, that's American Legion. And that is, she had 727 votes to Cindy Lizvezchik.
Yep.
Did I have that right again? 484 votes.
Okay.
So
Yep.
60% to 40%
Yep.
in that district in Rutland City. So Mary Howard, the winner there to re-election. Eric McGuire, unopposed, and Christ the King, Ward 1368. Paul Clifford unopposed in Godnick Ward, 812 votes, and William Knott unopposed, and you're voting there at the Calvary Bible Church, 1,094 votes. So it looks like you'll have William Knott back, of course, Mary Howard back, new representatives, Eric McGuire and what appears to be Paul Clifford, although there's a town portion of that yet to come in. Oh, but,
Well, yeah,
but he was
Paul's
unopposed.
yeah,
So,
Paul's
yeah, so I
unopposed,
guess
so
that's
yeah.
a fait accompli.
Yeah, so he's in.
Yeah.
Now I got to give Paul credit. I mean, I was out on the campaign trail a lot this year, more than I ever have been in my previous 6 terms. And Paul, even though he was unopposed, he was out there a lot. He was out there a lot working it. Whether it was signs or going to events and waves and I was impressed for a guy who didn't have a race.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I'd also say I saw a number of other representatives that also didn't have races, and there were quite a few, surprisingly, this year, and I saw a number of them out, campaigning. Like Stephanie Jerome up in Brandon and Butch Shaw, the new Pittsford Proctor
that new district. Yeah, I don't know the number of that one, but
unopposed and out there.
Right.
So good for them. Like you said, it's good for them to be out meeting and greeting and hearing from the people. Just because you don't have an opponent.
Oh, no doubt.
That's good to be
what
listening.
It's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Speaking of listening, and we want to keep digging into some of these results because we got layers of them here. But I just wanted to ask you, Tom, you were listening, and what, in your view, what were your top issues you were hearing in Rutland County?
Crime is a big one throughout the state. We certainly are in a bubble down here and have all the crime, or Burlington doesn't have all the crime. We have it, and of course, big news last night as far as crime went in Rutland City. That was the biggest topic. Economy, mainly the gas prices people are really concerned with. And another big topic that I heard about was housing. We're in a real housing crunch in this state. And to attract people, which we're losing population in Rutland County, and we need the housing to house people. And another one, that seems to come up every year is Act 250. And the thing is, people do not want to get rid of Act 250. There's the 10 criteria, which is I call the meat and potatoes of Act 250. They want to keep it. It's all the regulation to get into the meat and potatoes, to try to streamline that. And a great example, I think, is a friend of mine opened a restaurant the Maple Angus over in Flores Plaza. And I mean, he had a lot of trouble, and a lot of it had to do with state regulation. And I've actually, through that process, I had conversations with the governor's administration and with the governor himself. And an idea that I came up with is to basically, for small state Act 250 type projects, to have some kind of a caseworker like we do in the human services.
Sure.
Because Josh and Heather trying to open that restaurant, I mean, they're just small business people. They aren't experienced in, in navigating the state regulations. And if there was somebody in the state that could help the small business, if there's a big business going in, chances are they have the resources, to be able to have those people on staff to guide them through what they have to do. But little people don't. And that was a great example of how I think that maybe it wouldn't be called a caseworker, but how a caseworker could help the little guy and help him navigate and get his business open in a timely manner.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Having done that job at City Hall many, many moons ago.
Sure.
I won't say how many.
Yeah.
That is how we did it then. And I can remember one developer walking out, shaking hands with me and saying, "Gee, I wish every municipality was like this."
Right. Yep. Yep, and we,
So it's proof's in the pudding, yeah.
right, yeah, we need to go a little bigger and have it
Yeah.
statewide. Yeah, I didn't know.
Very, very good idea.
That was there, so maybe I did hear it years ago, and it was buried away, and I pulled it out, but.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it just makes sense.
I think it
Yeah,
does.
to have
I
that
think it
advocate
does.
and somebody who knows the process to help walk you through it.
Right,
Because
right.
sometimes it's just that application assistance and advocacy that makes the difference.
Right.
Connecting
And,
those dots.
Again, the big thing I'm hearing about is crime, bigger than the economy.
I was curious about that, yeah.
And from what I've
yeah.
heard, and
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked
And
to
the point's right about housing. It is
Yep.
a statewide issue.
Yep.
It's a concern, and I'm glad you shared that.
Right, and there's a lot going on statewide. There's a lot of ARPA money that we still have that's going to be going toward housing. I can't give exact numbers, but Rutland County has pretty much led the state as far as, getting low-income housing for people that need it. And you probably know more about that than I do, being in the job that you have, but we've done a great job in this area, which we always have, Anytime people are in need in Rutland County, in the Rutland area, I mean, we've always risen to the occasion,
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I like about those city zoning regulations, without getting too far afield here,
Yeah.
from live election night coverage, is just the fact that for smaller developments under 10 acres or under 10 units of housing, zoning, local zoning doesn't supersede Act 250. It takes the place of Act 250, kicks in after and above that.
Right.
So you can be more nimble at the lower level. And not have to go through that process. And it's kind of an advantage of
Yeah.
looking in the city where we have established zoning and a master plan and so forth.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and then the larger ones still go through both, but the smaller,
Yes.
anything smaller than that can be done locally.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a plus to having
Right.
your own local zoning and having it directed locally too. It's decided by local people as well. So,
Right, yeah.
Fantastic. I see William Knott's here in the studio, by the way.
look
So
at
we want
that.
to welcome William and congratulate him on his re-election to the House tonight. And we'll have him on in a few minutes if he's willing to come on tonight.
Yeah, Will and I sit on the Judiciary Committee together.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And do you probably don't know yet what committee you might serve on, if assuming you're reelected by all these other towns we haven't counted.
Right. I don't at
Don't
this
want to
point.
presume anything.
I'm up in
Yeah.
the air right now,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But a quick story, and I think Will knows that I'm going to tell. I knew of Will because of his work locally on the Board of Aldermen
Yes, right.
and that type of thing.
Right.
And he knew kind of me because of my work in Montpelier, but we had never met. So the first
Oh,
time we
okay.
ever met face to face,
Yeah.
look at he's laughing, was in our committee room.
Okay.
And Will knew my daughter from years ago, from
Okay.
when Will used to manage the video store.
Okay, yeah.
So he comes over to me and introduces himself, and he says, "I want to introduce your daughter's favorite politician."
There you go. Yeah. The second favorite
Or no,
politician,
I'm
right?
sorry. He said, "I'm glad to meet your daughter's second favorite politician."
Yeah, right,
But
exactly.
anyway,
There you go.
You get the
Yeah.
gist of it. But yeah. So that's where Will and I started our relationship, and it's been a good one.
Well, that's what
It's
I
been a
love
good one
about.
personally, and
Yeah.
we don't stop ribbing each other.
Well,
so.
and I always say around here, and most of us, we can have an argument one day and have a cup of coffee the next.
Right. Yes.
So, absolutely.
All right.
Well, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you very much. Now,
Thank you.
We'll hopefully get these other towns
Well,
in so we can confirm who's who. But
We will, but we don't know
but-
when. And for the future, we've got to get you a new sidekick.
Yeah. Well, and
with John not being here anymore.
I know the judge.
Right, the judge.
Yeah. He went on to
As
be.
I said to you today, talking on the phone, you guys were almost as popular as Collimore and Healy,
Healy, yeah.
but not quite. I won't give you that. but-
Yeah, we're like the moons around that planet right there.
Right. Oh, yeah,
Healy, the planet Healy,
No
planet,
doubt.
planet Collimore.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Tom. Tom Burdett was here on the show tonight, direct from the campaign trail. We're excited to have Tom Burdett here. He is running for re-election, of course, in what we call the Rutland District 2, which includes West Rutland, Clarendon, Wallingford, and a portion of Rutland Town that is not in the new 4. The new 4 has Rutland City, Northeast section, and the Rutland Town. Everything outside of that section of 4 in the legislative district then falls into this district, Rutland 2, very confusing stuff, but we've got to figure it out here. And that includes West Rutland, Clarendon, Wallingford, and then that piece of Rutland Town. So we are waiting for results from other corners. We had the results in Clarendon, which would show Tom being reelected, but because there's 3 other communities, you've got to put them all together, and hopefully we'll see some of those tonight. But thank Tom Burdett for coming on the program with us, and I'm happy to be able to say congratulations to William Knott, because that was a district in, thank goodness, one neighborhood. And so when the results came in and William was actually unopposed, he won for re-election. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down and being on the program with us, William.
No, well, as I said when I got here, I figured if you'll put Tom Burdett on TV, you'll put anyone on. But
And I love the story about how you guys met in committee. That's fantastic.
and I like to think Tom and I are a great example for Montpelier. We've served together the last 4 years on Judiciary Committee. And I'm a Democrat, he's a Republican. We've certainly disagreed on a bunch of votes. There's times in committee where we definitely butted heads. I felt very strongly in one way, he felt the other. After we had our vote, we went and had lunch together.
Yeah.
And we chatted. And that's what you really need to do to move things along up there, is you have to recognize you're going to have differences with people and accept that and respect the fact that they're there because they care about their community and they care about the state. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, but one of the things that impressed me the most 4 years ago when I first got elected and went to Montpelier, and it's something I've been telling potential new representatives and senators about, is every Wednesday we meet Rutland Caucus. And it's all the senators, it's all the representatives from Rutland County.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're a Republican, if you're a Dem. Butch Shaw is our chair, and we just talk about what Rutland County needs. We usually have someone come in to talk about something important in our communities, and we figure out together how we can move this county forward and make certain we're not neglected.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I have actually had feedback from other counties, around the state, who are somewhat envious of the Rutland County delegation getting together every week with their own sort of caucus as the county delegation, with partisan politics aside, and making decisions on behalf of their constituents here in Rutland. And I know there's some envious other regions around the state who like that model and wish that theirs would do it too. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And there's just some things we can't get past. Chittenden County has the population.
Yes.
We have slipped in population. We've got to work on reversing that trend. If our population's declining and we can't speak with a unified voice on issues that are important to us, we'll get nothing accomplished.
Yeah.
I mean, when we argue, that's why we don't get new bridges for 2 decades.
Yeah.
We really need to recognize the value of working together, and I think we do that very well.
I think it's a great point, because of the growth in Chittenden County. We in the south, from Addison County down, have been declining, where you see growth happening from Addison County up. And in order to, the only way we're going to hold our ground in that respect is, as you say, to work together. So great, perfect example.
Yes.
So let's see, by the way, if I think they slipped in something new. So we're going to just see what we've got for, so this, did I do? No, so this is Wells. And let's go right to the, so the state representative, Patty McCoy, is running unopposed, and she received 256 votes from the town of Wells. But let's get into the Senate race, since that seems to be closer. And in the town of Wells, Terry K. Williams was the top vote getter with 178 votes. So Terry's doing better in the smaller towns outside of Rutland City, it appears. Brian Collmore came in second there, though, with 150 votes. Brian Collmore second for state senator, Rutland County, in the town of Wells with 150 votes. And then followed by Dave Weeks with 125 votes, and closely followed by Josh Ferguson with 116 votes. Bridget Remington there with 92 votes, and Anna Taddeo with 88 votes. So in the town of Wells, Rutland 1 is the district now called. Terry K. Williams, 178 votes. Brian Collmore, 150 votes. Dave Weeks, 125 votes. Bridget Remington, 92 votes. And Anna Taddeo, 88 votes in the town of Wells in Rutland County. And it looked like we might have another one. Yeah, so this is, okay, so this one would go with, oh no, it doesn't, sorry. Let's say this one used to be part of this district. Middletown Springs.
It's easy to still get confused.
This is a big change, and you are one of the ones, I should say to folks watching, when I mentioned the BCA coming up with a fairly simple plan for Rutland City that the Legislative Apportionment Committee did not accept, William was one of the ones that was testifying on our behalf, to make the case that that's the best layout given the population and the balance and of constituents and so forth. And so we do appreciate your efforts, and the mayor was there as well.
Yes.
To try to make the case for us, even though they made their own decision regardless. And this is what we have today. So here we are. But thank you for at least advocating for us in that respect and being our voice when it came to our version of the redistricting. So let's see. So we have here, I'm just going to look for the local races first. And yep, so this is an important one because again, that gets back to that. This is that district that I mentioned, Robin Chestnut Tangerman looking to get reelected to the seat he was beat by Sally Aki last time, and she gained the seat that Robin had. Now he's trying to gain the seat back. In Middletown Springs, he has done that with 270 votes to Sally Aki's 225 votes. So Robin Chestnut Tangerman, the Democrat running for trying to be reelected in this district. One more town coming in his favor, Middletown Springs, at 270 votes to the current office holder, the Republican Sally Aki, with 225 votes. And we also have the Senate races. So this is Middletown Springs, an important one, I think, in Rutland County. And it looks like Anatario is the top vote getter in Middletown Springs. 236 votes for Anatario, followed by, it looks like Terry Williams, 220 votes. So the second seat, 3 out of 6 being elected, 220 votes for Terry Williams. And then the third seat, it appears to be a tie at this point with Bridget Remington, the Democrat from Rutland Town, with 216 votes, followed, or tied, I should say, with Joshua Ferguson, the Democrat from Fairhaven, with 216 votes also. And then followed last, did I say Brian Collmore, 100? Yeah, so Brian Collmore next with 177 votes, and then followed by Dave Weeks with 156. So it looks like, if I can do this order right, Anatario, top vote getter in Middletown Springs, followed by Terry Williams, the second seat, and then the third seat, it looks like, would be that tie of Bridget Remington and Joshua Ferguson with 216 votes, Brian Collmore 177, and Dave Weeks at 156 in that order. Phew. I'm just going to go back just for a second just to see if consistent with all prior reporting tonight, Becca Ballant looks like the first Congresswoman. If Rutland County is any bellwether for the rest of the state, Becca Ballant will be the first Congresswoman from Vermont. The Democrat running from Brattleboro with 258 votes, followed by Liam Madden, the Republican, with 174 votes, with the rest of the candidates being numbers being inconsequential to that race. And then as U.S. Senator, again, it's consistent and likely that Peter Welch is our new United States Senator, the Democrat from Norwich with 297 votes, and Gerald Malloy with 185. By the way, in case anybody wonders what's going on with the governor, he's winning handily. In Middletown Springs, for instance, 330 votes for Governor Phil Scott to remain in office. Brenda Siegel is second with 134. And if I were to look at most of these, I'm going to suggest it's probably pretty consistent, and Phil Scott's probably likely to be our returning governor for 2 more years. So, let's see. So one of the things I was going to ask before we dig in a little deeper, unless new results come in, ask William Knott was what he was hearing on the campaign trail. Same question we had for Tom Burdett, because they're out talking to everybody during the campaign, whether they're opposed or not. I know that they've all been out talking to everybody. So if you don't mind, sharing what you
Not at all.
heard.
Certainly, and a lot of it is what Tom had mentioned. And these problems, I will say, go down through the state. A few weeks ago, we had Jill Kroinski, the Speaker of the House, come down and do a day in Rutland. And she had a meeting to talk about housing issues and met with local officials. And she made it very clear that the issues she's hearing about in Rutland, she's hearing the same things in Bennington and the old north end of Burlington. I mean, we really have some consistent statewide problems. One of them, a big one, is crime. And just to be specific about that one, because that is something that I do want to talk about, and it's something I want to bring up to Rutland Caucus at our first meeting. So Rutland City has a lot of repeat offenders who are waiting for their time in court, and they're out, they haven't had their initial court appearance, and then they rack up other charges. And they're out, and that makes people feel unsafe. And the police are now posting information about how easy it is for someone to get out. And the public realizes this, and it's really affected safety to understand how easy it is for someone to get arrested 3-4 times in 1 week and still be on the streets.
Wow.
And here's some data that I found really troubling, which is there are about 2,000 active, and Chittenden County has 3 full-time judges and a part-time judge who does 2 days a week.
Okay.
In Rutland County, there are about 2,000 active court cases. Rutland County has 1 full-time judge and a part-time judge who does 1 day every other week.
I see.
We are vastly underserved in our court system with judiciary to process everything in a timely manner. That individual who racks up 4 or 5 additional charges before his initial court appearance, he's not going to have those charges if he has his court appearance, and then he's under stipulations or maybe has some prison time. So one thing we really need to do as a body of Rutland County Legislature is when the budget process is going on, we've got to rally and we've got to work hard to get another judge in Rutland County.
I see.
We need to eliminate this backlog. And that's just money. That's just making sure the money is in the budget to pay for the additional personnel we need.
I see.
And
I say that it's interesting that you pull that together to, the numbers versus Chittenden County and kind of painted that picture, because honestly, that's the first time I'd heard it. So it's very interesting, and frankly, it makes really great sense. So I know you and Tom Burdett are both on the Judiciary Committee.
Yes.
And
at least we were.
I was going to say, and we don't know what happens next. And Tom still is waiting to see if he's reelected.
Yes.
So we don't want to presume anything here, live election night coverage.
Don't want to jinx the guy.
Yeah. But by the same token, it certainly would be something I could imagine both on your high priority lists if you are back on Judiciary come January. So did we? We did. So when William and I were talking about a very important issue, crime, a few more results came in, and I'm going to jump to this one because it is actually West Rutland, and this will speak to the vote we were just talking about. So let's get to that state house race and see how it factors into the legislative district we were just describing, which, if I still can find it here, included Rutland Town, Wallingford, West Rutland, and let's see, starting to get all pushed around here, but well, let me get to the results and then we'll get, oh, here it is. So this is the one we were talking about with Tom Burdett, Art Peterson, Ken Fredette, and Dave Potter, which is West Rutland, Clarendon, Wallingford, and that piece of Rutland Town that's not in 4, which is represented by Paul Clifford. And so this would be the West Rutland portion of that. So we've heard from Clarendon, now we'll hear from West Rutland, and let's see what they have to say. And this would be on the House races to start with, and then we'll get to Senate. Okay, so the West Rutland portion of this district of 1, 2, 3, 4 towns in fact, has Tom Burdett as the top vote getter with 567 votes. Tom Burdett, top vote getter in West Rutland with 567 votes, the Republican, followed by, again, Art Peterson, the Republican from Clarendon, 434 votes. Art Peterson, 434 votes in the town of West Rutland, followed by Dave Potter with 372 votes. And they're taking 2 of these 4 candidates, followed by Ken Fredette with 282 votes. So again, Tom Burdett, 567, Dave Potter, 372. I'm sorry, let me start over. Tom Burdett, 567, Art Peterson with 434, Dave Potter with 372, followed by Ken Fredette with 282. And that's in the second town of 4. So we now have West Rutland and Clarendon. And at this point, with those 2 towns in, Tom Burdett and Art Peterson are the 2 top candidates, and they're electing 2 out of 4. Okay. So we'll get to that one after. Let me just jump to, because we had a couple more. Fairhaven. And I don't want to lose any of the ones we haven't reported yet. So let's go to Fairhaven. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry, but I wanted to just go in the West Rutland before I forget and give you those Senate candidates. So in West Rutland, in the Senate, Brian Collmore is top vote getter. West Rutland, 586 votes. Brian Collmore, 586 votes. Followed by Terry Williams with 477 votes. And David Weeks with 468 votes. So the top 3 out of the 6, you're taking the top 3, include Brian Collmore, Terry Williams, Dave Weeks, and then Bridget Remington with 323, Anna Taddeo with 282, and Josh Ferguson with 259. So one more time for the Senate races in the town of West Rutland, led by Brian Collmore with 586 votes. Terry Williams with 477, Dave Weeks with 468, Bridget Remington with 323, Dave Weeks with, Anna Taddeo with 282, and Josh Ferguson with 259. So that is the Senate races and the House race in West Rutland. Now we'll get to Fairhaven. And we'll get to the House races. Okay, so in this one, I just recalled that Bill Canfield is running for re-election, and that is a one-town district, I believe now. And Bill was unopposed with 812 votes in the House race there. Bill Canfield with 812 votes for Fairhaven, and Bill has been a long-time representative to our region, and looks like he'll be serving us again in the House of Representatives, the Republican from Fairhaven, Bill Canfield, with 812 votes. Now the state Senate, Fairhaven, it looks like Terry Williams is the top vote getter in the town of Fairhaven. Terry Williams, 541 votes, followed by then Brian Collmore with 521 votes, and that third seat in this order for Fairhaven would go to Joshua Ferguson with 425 votes. So that would be, again, Terry Williams, 541, Brian Collmore, 521, and Josh Ferguson, 425. Then we go to the 4th spot, Dave Weeks with 383 votes, followed by Anna Taddeo with 264 votes, and Bridget Remington with 260 votes. So that is the town of Fairhaven. And then we have one more small town here, and it is in that, as I mentioned earlier, where some of the districts are now between counties. There's an Addison-Rutland, there's a Rutland-Bennington, or Bennington-Rutland in this case, Danby. So let's see what we've got going on there. We've got see if there was a House race. Trying to recall. And let's see. Oops. see that one jumping out at me here, so I'm going to go to the, we're just going to go right ahead to the Senate race here. So this is the town of Danby, and Brian Collmore is the top vote getter there in the town of Danby. The Republican, 313 votes. And this one's a little closer with Dave Weeks at 280, followed by that third seat, Terry Williams, with 273. So the top three are Brian Collmore, 313, Dave Weeks, 280, Terry Williams, 273. And then a tie for fourth, in this case, 210 votes each for Joshua Ferguson and Bridget Remington, 210 votes each. Followed very closely by Anatario at 209 votes. So in that order, Brian Collmore, Dave Weeks, Terry Williams, Joshua Ferguson and Bridget Remington tied for that fourth spot in for fourth and fifth, and Anatario 1 vote behind them at 219th, coming in the sixth spot there, and that's the town of Danby. So I will look just quickly to see if our other trends are consistent, but yes, Peter Welch. Well, actually, Gerald Malloy beat Peter Welch by a vote in Danby, 301 to 300. And let's see in the congressional race, if that's handy. Let's see. I don't see that one right in front of me, so we're gonna keep moving on, I think, without wasting too much time flipping pages. Yep, so I don't happen to see that one handy, so we'll move on from that. But interesting that Gerald Malloy has 1 vote over Peter Welch for United States Senate in the town of Danby. So there's a lot of paper here and a lot of results. Executive Director Tom Leopold bringing in an important note from the front. Oh, Art Peterson is here in the studio as well. So we are happy to have Art as well, because we have had the opportunity with folks like William Knott and Tom Burdett, the mayor earlier, to actually be able to ask what they've been hearing when they were in the out meeting and greeting their constituents and their fellow Vermonters, finding out what the top issues are on their minds. And so far what we've been hearing, and William confirmed some consistency with some of the things that you're hearing nationwide, really, as well.
Yeah. Certainly crime. People want to feel safe. Housing. Hearing from a lot of people who, and I'm at this age myself, I have children who have gone away to college, who are, my daughter is out of state. And if I want her to come back home eventually, to do that, she needs to be able to afford a house. So I think housing is going to be one of the top issues in the legislature this year. We are in a situation where average everyday Vermonters are being priced out of owning a home, and we need to do something about that. And part of that is loosening Act 250 regulations to build in places that are already built. I'm not talking about putting condos on top of a mountain. I'm talking about Rutland City has some space. When you leave Rutland City and you drive between Rutland City and Wallingford, well, you've got a highway there. There's on the sides of the road there. That is not disrupting pristine nature to put housing complexes there. So we really need to think about our housing infrastructure, and we need to think about growing in Rutland County our population. But again, if you've got housing problems, how do you grow that population if they don't have somewhere to live? So those two are really tied hand in hand.
And to your earlier point about Chittenden County and the growth there, they just announced a huge housing project. So
Yes.
they are definitely aggressively pursuing housing. And if we want to be able to compete with the other half of the state north of us, we're going to have to do some of the same.
And we know from the interest that the College of St. Joseph campus generated, we know from some of the grants that the Board of Aldermen in Rutland City recently approved, there's interest from companies in coming in and building in Rutland. We've just got to make certain that that path is easy enough for them to accomplish. And I'll also say, before I go and yield my chair to Art, that I think the train is going to be transformational for Rutland.
Yeah.
Because you have people, we say people having a hard time affording a house in Rutland City. Chittenden County is off the charts. And
true.
when we have regular train service where someone could reliably hop on a train in Rutland, go to Burlington area, work for the day, and come back and have about an hour commute. For a lot of people, that doesn't sound bad at all. And when we have that, and I think we're only 2 or 3 years out, we're going to see even more property around here bought up by people who are doing that and sort of using us as a bedroom community. We've got to be prepared for that. We've got to be prepared for climate refugees coming from the warmer states. We have a chance to really grow this region, but we just got to make certain we have our ducks in order with housing.
Yeah, and absolutely, housing is fundamental to that whole plan. So, well, William, thank you very much. We really
you for having
appreciate
me.
the time tonight and coming by. And congratulations, of course. I know you're unopposed, but
Thank you.
for putting your name out there on the ballot again and serving us in Montpelier.
I'm really looking forward to be back. I think it's going to be a crazy start, to be honest with you. We're going to have at least 40 new representatives out of 150. It's going to take us some time to figure out who we are as a body and how we can move together. But this is going to be a very important year, and I'm very grateful to be up there.
And one last point on it, though, for the viewers, is that's an unprecedented, I don't say unprecedented, but in recent times, turnover in legislators in the House. Is that right?
I'd say it is, because there were about 30 new representatives when I came in 4 years ago. So even 10 more than that. But the thing that makes this time really unique is there are 14 regular committees in the House, and 9 of the chairs retired and didn't run for re-election.
Wow.
So we're not only going to have a lot of new members, but we're going to have the vast majority of our committees with new chairs.
Wow.
So it
Yeah.
is really going to be a learning process to begin the year.
And then, but then in perspective, 150 representatives in the House.
Yes.
Yeah. So 40 of the 150 are brand new, and 9 out of 14 chairs brand new. Wow.
Yes.
Whew. Well, you're up for it. You're young enough.
You're
You're not old like me. You can do it.
Hey, I don't think we look that different in age, and you might have the nod on me there. But I do joke around. At 51, one of the reasons I enjoy being in politics is it's the only place I get to be a young man.
That's great. Well, William, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to see you. William Knott, of course, in his Rutland City District, being unopposed but re-elected, and he'll be serving us in Montpelier again. And I'd also like to welcome Art Peterson. Art is in that almost new district because we've added Rutland Town. But Art, welcome to the program. We're glad to have you on board here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
having me.
We appreciate it. So for those tuning in, this is one of the more contested races that we had. And I was saying earlier, in a little bit disappointing in some respects, that there were so many uncontested communities this time around, more than I can recall seeing in my political days here. But this is one of the ones that wasn't, actually. So you have 2 seats open, and in 4 communities, making up one district called Rutland 2, in this new realignment of districts, which this one now includes the portion, as we've said tonight several times, that portion of Rutland Town that's not in portion 4, which is now going to be under Representative Paul Clifford after this evening, and that portion includes a portion of Rutland City in the Northeast District, and that's actually my neighborhood where I voted today in Godnick Center. This one is all of the portions of the town outside of that area in Rutland Town, and includes then West Rutland, Clarendon, and Wallingford. And Art, I think you actually live in Clarendon, right?
Yes, I live in Clarendon.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
you won Clarendon tonight.
Yes, I
and,
did.
And
Yep.
also we had the results for West Rutland, and you and Tom Burdett were the top 2. Now you're taking 2 candidates out of 4. You have 2 House members from the Republican Party and 2 running from the Democratic Party. One of those, a previously long-term member of the House, looking to be reelected, and that was Dave Potter, and then Ken Fredette. So right now we're just, well, actually, this one I don't think we've read yet is Wallingford. So we have another one.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had Clarendon
Uh-oh.
and West Rutland. So let's see if it's consistent with Wallingford. Well, we have Art Peterson right here on the program with us at this moment. And it looks like actually Ken Fredette did quite well in the town of Wallingford with 530 votes, followed by Dave Potter with 515 votes, followed by Art Peterson, the Republican running from Clarendon with 461 votes, and Tom Burdett with 435 votes. So this is the third of 4 towns that have come in tonight in this Rutland District 2 race. I'll read them again with Ken Fredette, actually, top vote getter in Wallingford with 530 votes, Dave Potter with 515 votes, Art Peterson with 461 votes, and Tom Burdett with 435 votes. So this, as I started to say, is one of the more contested races in the House. There was many of the races for House seats in various towns with this new alignment this year that did not have contested races, so the people were running unopposed in many respects. But this isn't one of them. So we'll be waiting now on, and I don't have the subtotal at this point in front of me or the time to tally it, but the last one in this would be that portion of Rutland Town to come in. And that, it says here in population, if this is accurate, 3,294. So it's showing the 3 that we had reported on, West Rutland, 2,214 people. That's the population that they're representing here. 2,412 in Clarendon, 2,129 in Wallingford, and then, so you have a large one to come in, I guess is what I'm pointing out with Rutland Town, with a population of 3,294. So as soon as we have that, we should have some answers.
Yes, we will.
Well, all right, let me ask you, because I've asked Tom Burdett,
Sure.
and I got to ask William Knott, and actually the mayor was on earlier.
Oh, wow.
And he
Yep.
stopped in first, and we congratulated him on a smooth election
Sure.
with the city clerk, Henry Hack,
Yep.
and their great poll people to make, a complex thing simple.
Yeah,
From our view, difficult what goes on behind the scenes.
yeah, right.
But for the voters, to make it look simple. But anyway, what I've been asking them is what you've been hearing on the campaign trail, because you've been talking to a lot of people, and how consistent is that with what we hear around the nation?
As far as issues, yeah, I don't. My sense is that there's a great deal of frustration around a couple things in our district. I think fuel prices are a real concern.
Right.
We all know that the prices have spiked in the last couple of years. That's an issue, and
even the last couple of weeks, by the way.
yeah, absolutely. But they spiked, came kind of down. Now they're back up. But I think the biggest issue I think I hear about is crime and the rise in crime.
Yeah.
Especially with the new district, new town of Rutland Town, and that section of Rutland Town that's very much subject to criminal element.
Yeah, there's a lot of retail.
Right.
Yep.
You know, the
Retail
Greenmount Shopping
activity.
Plaza, all those things near it.
Yep.
The Cortina Inn and all the problems. Don't have to go into them in detail here, but we know what they are. And then the incident last night just highlights all of it. So from my standpoint, it's that. We've got a lot of problems. I don't hear many times any one specific thing, but I think that we need to be better than we are, and we need to do some work in some areas. And I think in the punishment of criminals area, and I think in making sure that we don't bankrupt our state in the name of climate change. And I think those two things are, in my mind, foremost on people's mind in my district.
Now, I should know this, but what committee did you serve on?
I served on healthcare.
Okay.
Healthcare
Yep.
committee,
Yep.
yeah.
Now, did you like that, and you're looking to re-up on that committee, or I know there's a lot of changes?
I'm really undecided on that. My guess is I'll probably stay in the committee. I almost don't know why, because my expertise area is probably not healthcare, but
Would that oversee Rutland, have involvement with probably the Green Mountain Care Board and maybe Rutland
Yes.
Regional Medical Center? And,
well, we're involved with a lot of things. I mean, and there's a lot of issues, and a lot of them are pressing in healthcare. My sense is I'll stay in the committee. That'll be something I'll have to talk to the party leadership and so forth and so on. But
well, I have to say, in that committee, and of course here we are, having come off of 2 years of the pandemic version of, we still have COVID around, but the
Oh, I
that
know.
intensity that you were really in the thick of it there in that committee.
Well, I know, and there's many other things, the mental health issue, the children waiting in emergency rooms, the workforce, which you're going to hear about all over.
Right.
So there are a lot of pressing issues, and my guess is I'll probably stay in that committee at this
Okay.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, and what do you think about this turnover with, William was saying he thinks it's, and I've heard it maybe even north of the number of 40 changes in legislators and
Yeah,
9 committee chairs out of 14, and that's pretty big.
I know, and as a freshman legislator, my experience is pretty limited. To me, the first year, 2021, was all Zoom and was kind of like,
right.
I don't want to say wasted, but you didn't get a sense of things.
Right, yeah.
This past
I
year,
forgot
you
about
got
that. It
yeah.
seems like so long ago, but it wasn't.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
it wasn't. And so last year, you finally got the sense of what this is. You're sitting in a room, you see all the folks there, and actually, Tom and I were talking about it today, the vast difference it'll be to see all these different faces.
Right.
There's going to be, and the expertise that walked out the door. I mean, I think that's where
Right.
the leadership of the House will have to determine what and who and how they're going to regain some of that expertise. I think
Right.
in appropriations alone, we lost a bunch of people, including the
And one of
chair.
them was from here, which is Peter Fagan, and he was vice
Right,
chair.
well, Peter Fagan
Yeah.
and Marty Feltus and Bob Helm.
And Bob Helm, right. for
Yeah,
him,
just
she's
to
in it.
name a couple,
Yeah.
3, and Mary Hooper, the chair of the committee. I mean, you're talking about the most important committee losing a lot of folks.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said Bob Helm's name, because I made a little list here
Yeah.
too, and I did want to say tonight that we are saying goodbye to some legislators that have served us well. You have from the Senate both Cheryl Hooker and Josh Terenzini stepping down, and of course then Josh's father, Tom Terenzini, from the town of Rutland. Bob Helm, a longtime legislator that certainly has served this region so well over the years, will be stepping aside, and well deserved. You can't hate them for wanting to get a little time back in their lives after all the time that they've served us in Montpelier. And then of course Peter Fagan, as we discussed just
Yeah.
moments ago,
Yeah.
from the Rutland, what was Rutland District, the Rutland City District in the Northeast. But Peter got recruited, at least momentarily, for
I heard that.
serving on the school board. And
Well,
they
I
said,
have to mention a few things about Peter. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't understand until you're there the help that someone with experience like Peter can give a freshman legislator who's not involved with the day-to-day things of a state budget.
Yeah.
I mean, guys like me leaned on folks like Peter Fagan and other experienced legislators for an awful lot of stuff, and that's what makes being in person so important. You can't do this in Zoom. You
Yeah.
really can, and it's something that if it ever were to happen again, they should, shorten the session to a month and just do the money things and go home, because
Yeah, I see your point.
just from my standpoint of seeing folks and saying, hey, how about this? What about that?
Right.
And folks should realize how much time and energy is put into trying to make the right decision on things. It isn't an easy task.
No.
There's a lot of gray in many things. Some things are black and white, but there's a lot of gray. There's good in everything, but is it good enough to spend money on? And so those are things you gotta balance. And talking to a Peter Fagan,
Right.
or a Marty Feltus, or someone with experience,
Right.
Bob Helm,
Right.
is so important.
Yeah, and seniority, although it's a bigger thing in Congress, but it does have it has some weight in Montpelier.
Yeah,
And those
yeah.
guys have been around a while, and and definitely.
Well, right, and just how to, the basic things. You can go to a Butch Shaw in our party and say,
Right.
Butch, what do we do here? How does this work?
Luckily, he ran for re-election. So.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Or Patty McCoy.
Right.
What do we do here? How's that work?
And she
What's
ran
this
for re-election, too.
procedure? Because there's a great number of things like that, if you knew, that you just don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And the new folks that are coming on board will find that out in short order.
Exactly. And you won't, tonight, you wouldn't be a freshman.
No,
right?
no.
It's just
I
the
would-
first
No,
term,
that's right. I
Yeah.
would not be a freshman.
So let's see
I'd
now.
be stepping on the freshmen and pushing them aside.
There you
That's
go.
what it is.
Well, we do have a couple more towns, so while Art's here, keeping us up to date on some of the things that are happening outside on the campaign trail, which we find very interesting. I just want to give you the town of Mendon, and we'll go right to that because Jim Harrison is this is one of the towns that includes Killington and a couple others that Jim Harrison was unopposed at for a state representative. He received 520 votes from the town of Mendon, but Jim is unopposed, and Jim is a current legislator who will be returning to Montpelier to service in that part of Rutland County. So we're going to go right to the Senate races to try to bring some more closure to that because it's been a little bit around the board. Brian Collmore in the town of Mendon, though, top vote getter once again, 323 votes to Brian Collmore, followed by Anna Taddeo again. Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. Bridget Remington again by 275 votes, 275 for Bridget Remington, followed by Anna Taddeo with 271, so very close. So Brian Collmore, again, 3 seats out of 6 running. Brian Collmore, 323, Bridget Remington, 275, and Anna Taddeo, 271. Then followed by Dave Weeks with 222, Terry Williams with 217, and Joshua Ferguson with 206. So that's the town of Mendon. And just to be consistent, we'll look to see what they decided on. So United States Senator, again, Peter Welch and Gerald Malloy, 360 and 218 respectively, which is consistent with everybody else at this point for United States Senate. And again, same thing with Governor Phil Scott, at least in Rutland County, being handily reelected. 491 votes. Closest Brenda Siegel got on there was 89 votes. So the governor will probably be reelected with a overwhelming margin when all is said and done statewide, if Rutland, and I assume it is somewhat of a bellwether for the rest of the state as well in that respect. And in Congress, also consistent with Becca Balint being the new congresswoman from Vermont with 311 votes, followed by Liam Madden with 223. And I think that's also going to be consistent throughout the state. And Becca will probably be taking Peter Welch's place in Congress, and he'll probably be taking Pat Leahy's place in the United States Senate. So that is Mendon, but we also have Shrewsbury. And this is in another district that I have here somewhere. I actually printed out the districts today to try to follow along because they've been realigned by the state apportionment committee. I have to call it reapportionment, but it's apportionment committee. After following the census, basically, the results of the United States Census. So the population changes required under state statute alignment of the districts to meet certain population balances, and that's where everything got redrawn. And that could take place every 10 years. And thank goodness it won't be for another 9, but because it's a lot of work. But having said that, let me just get to those Senate races, and because they're very close in many respects. In the House race, by the way, Democrat Logan Nickel, 419, and I think unopposed. And I think this also includes like Mount Holly and Ludlow, as a matter of fact, with Shrewsbury and that with this realignment. But in the Senate side, the top vote getter, once again, Brian Collmore, BC, 45 years on the radio. And he is followed by Anna Taddeo with 267. So Anna Taddeo comes in second in Shrewsbury with 267 votes. And then she's followed this time by Bridget Remington. They go back and forth a little bit there, but there's your top 3 with 254 votes for Bridget Remington. So Brian Collmore, 283, Anna Taddeo, 267, Bridget Remington, 254. And then Josh Ferguson again, creeping up there with 236, followed by Dave Weeks with 214 and Terry Williams with 208, and that's in the town of Shrewsbury. So one thing I would ask you, Art, too, is when you're hearing some of these results and what you might have envisioned for how the candidates were doing, do you see anything that's a surprise?
No, I don't think so. I'm like you. I'm surprised at the number of uncontested. I'm always amazed at the number of uncontested races, not only here but across the state.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
I would think, and I would have always hoped that every district had a race, a competitive race where folks with different ideas compete against one another. But that just seems to be something that doesn't happen.
At least this
for whatever reason.
Yeah, I was very, very surprised with the uncontested races.
Well, we've talked a lot, or we've been asked to talk about things that could encourage people to run, just for that reason. When you think about this, especially for a young person, a working person,
right,
in the working years of his life, his or her life, this is a tough road. I mean, you're giving up January through mid-May. Okay, you're away from home for folks that aren't in the immediate Montpelier area, kind of.
Yeah.
You're from Raleigh. I stay up. I stay up there. I from my house,
okay.
It's about an hour and 45, and pounding the roads every day in the winter. I chose to stay. There's a lot of inconvenience to it, aside from the work itself, but there's just a lot of inconvenience. There's upset, there's jobs, there's family, there's a million different things that detract. And, my solution was pay us double and get us out of there by March.
March, yeah.
Get us out of there by
dragging
March.
Into,
Either that or let's do it every other year. I don't know that this legislature has to meet every year, quite frankly. I think we could easily go every other year. You might have to budget for 2 years. Well, budget for 2 years, let's go. That's some of the things that might encourage someone to take part.
Right.
And so, it's a sticky issue.
Yeah, and for younger folks too, and many years ago, I ran it was two primaries and then two generals, ran the campaign of young Jeff Connor, which many people remember his dad, Ben Connor, was their Commissioner of Public Works. And Jeff was a very young man in his early 20s, handily elected in his district here in Rutland City. And he did that for 2 terms, but then really had to get his career going.
Right.
And so, you had a young mind there and lots of energy, did a great job representing the city, but couldn't stay.
Yeah, you couldn't stay. I can see already you run out of gas, but beyond it, the upset of the family, the pay issue, and having another outside job. I mean, if you owned a business, if you're a business owner, it's tough. I observed while in the House, especially in the House chamber on the floor, that many times between votes, some would run out with a phone. And I know that some are conducting business, trying to keep their business going. Right. The Balance Act, run back in, or family, or whatever, running out, come back in and vote. It's
great observation.
It's just something that's hard. Now I'm older. I'm kind of semi-retired. I can do some of this. My family's out of the house type of thing, so you can make it work. But if you're at home with a youngish family and you're in the middle of your work life, it's a daunting thing. Plus, it doesn't end when you leave in the mid-May.
Right. So
the campaign.
That's sort of, I'm going to put air quotes around part-time nature of it is not at all accurate, right? Because you're invited to a lot of things, and you try to, you try to meet with your constituents.
Yeah, and you're handling issues. Things come up, and you're doing that.
Yeah.
And then the campaign, forget it. I mean, really, if you want to win.
When I ran the Chamber of Commerce, I always laughed hard about when they'd say, well, legislators have Monday off. Well, rarely would you actually have a Monday off.
Yeah, right.
What it really meant was the legislature wasn't in session, but it didn't mean you had the day off.
No, and that's
Sure.
that's a fact.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, at least the way I saw the job to be done, a lot of work done off hours, off time,
Yeah,
off. I mean,
right.
you know, it's not a simple matter of going in there and saying goodbye and going home and
Yeah.
sleeping or doing whatever you
Well,
want to do.
you got to have some point where you're reading the bills, and
That's
you know,
exactly right. And that's why I stayed up there, because by the time you get done with your day, you have a period where you can kind of do what you want, get something to eat. But when the next day's, agenda comes up, house calendar, you got stuff to look at. If you're going to make a vote that matters, and you're going to do what the folks that ask you to do as part of representing them, you got to know what you're voting on.
Yeah.
So now you're reading bills, and some of them are long, and some of them are complex, and you're calling other reps, hey, you saw you were in committee, what did you think of that?
Got it.
What about that? What about this?
Right.
And
Let me
so
ask you one other thing. William brought it up, and it reminded me, we're kind of the envy, as I have heard from other regions of the state, about the delegation getting together on Wednesdays
Yeah.
as a cohesive group.
Absolutely, we do that here. Yep, we
Yeah.
do that here, and kind of get together and meet with this one, that, meet with officials locally that we would have an impact on, get their view, get their perspective, and plus you have caucuses. I'm on the
Right.
military, National Guard and Military Affairs Caucus.
Okay.
And we get involved with military issues.
Yeah, okay.
All that's done on other time, and so there's a lot to it, and
Well, we don't have any results here yet, so I just want to say, and I'm so glad you said that, because I would like to segue into the fact that today is Election Day on Tuesday, November 8th, but around the corner, just 3 days away, is November 11th, and we want to take that opportunity to thank all of our United States veterans for their service to this country, which we will have that opportunity on Friday, but wouldn't want to lose the opportunity tonight on PEG TV to say thank our veterans. Remember that Friday is Veterans Day, and it's a great time to thank your veterans and those that are with us, and even to think about and pay respects to those that we've lost. Like my own father, who is no longer with us, but was a veteran of the United States Army Air Corps
oh wow.
in World War II in the European theater,
Yeah.
and yeah.
I join you in that. As a West Point grad and a 5-year military officer, that day has special significance, and I always think of the combat veteran
Yes.
that day. I think of those folks that risk body and soul to
Right.
to fight for what their government asks them to do, and they will always have a special part in my heart.
Well, let me take this opportunity to thank you for your military service.
Well, thank you. No.
We get to do this tonight, literally be on public access television, saying
Yeah.
whatever we want,
Yeah.
to having the freedom to vote
Absolutely.
because of
That's
our
right.
military. Because of our military.
That's right, and I hope and pray that as time goes by, everyone take the opportunity to vote.
Right.
Take the opportunity to vote.
Yeah.
Sometimes you look at the percentage, and it's not where it should be.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to realize the importance of voting. It's what we
Absolutely.
have. It's really your voice, and don't think that it doesn't matter. It matters a ton. It's all that matters, really.
Well, and some of these votes, as you can see, are within a vote.
Yeah.
When you say it doesn't,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
no,
No.
it doesn't matter.
It matters
literally,
a lot.
especially so much in Vermont, it matters
Especially
more.
here, yeah. Every vote counts. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, Art, thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming on. I wish I had those last
Well,
counts from Rutland Town.
yeah,
if
so
anyone's
I'll
out
be
there from
biting
Rutland
my
Town.
nails over that.
Yeah.
I'll be, I will figure that out.
Yeah, because that's the last shoe to drop, and then we have your district wrapped
Yeah,
up. But we'll,
yeah.
we'll keep the suspense going a little
Well,
longer.
you know, one of the things with Rutland Town, they probably had, because it's split into districts, they probably took them more time to figure it out.
Yeah, and they want to be accurate, so
Yeah,
we completely
yeah,
understand
we get
that.
it.
So, yeah.
Not a
Well, thank
problem.
you for your service.
Well, not a
and-
problem at all.
both
Thank
in
you,
the
Tom.
legislature and in
Appreciate
the
it.
military.
All
Thank
right.
you very much, Art. We
All right, very good. Nice
appreciate you
talking to
coming
you.
on. All right.
Nice talking to you folks. Yep.
That's Art Peterson, and his district right now is the West Rutland, Clarendon, Wallingford, and with the addition of that section of Rutland Town that we talked about, it's Rutland District 2. Art Peterson, Republican representative there, has been serving us in Montpelier. We really appreciate Art coming in to talk to us on the show tonight, along with his other colleagues, William Knott, who is unopposed but re-elected tonight. And we started off with the mayor of the city of Rutland, Dave Allaire, followed by Representative Tom Burdett, who's in also this other district, which we're waiting to compile the results of all the towns, which makes it a little more difficult tonight because in some races it's just a clear winner, like Governor Phil Scott, and in others it goes back and forth, and so you really have to compile all the numbers to come up with the actual winners of the districts. So we can't declare in those yet. But I did want to also mention that we have a couple of things that are coming up. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to just put a pause on that commercial break because we actually have Pittsford Rutland 8. And so we're going to give you the results from Pittsford. And that is where Butch Shaw is now in a district running unopposed for the House of Representatives. He's the chair of the Rutland County delegation, Butch Shaw. And he is in the district now of Pittsford and Proctor. Pittsford and Proctor is the new district there. But Butch has received 1,111 in the town of Pittsford. I think Butch is pretty popular up there, and I imagine he'll do well in Proctor too. But in the Senate side, I'm sure that this will be interesting to folks that current Senator Brian Collmore, the Republican, is top vote getter in the town of Pittsford with 755 votes. He did very well there, 755 votes. That's outstanding, because he was followed by Dave Weeks in second at 588 votes. So a significant margin there for Brian Collmore. First 755, Dave Weeks 588, followed by Terry Williams with 551. Terry Williams, 551 votes in the town of Pittsford. And so there's your top three: Brian Collmore, Dave Weeks, and Terry Williams in Pittsford. And then followed by Bridget Remington with 465 votes, Anna Taddeo with 455 votes, just a 10-vote difference there, which is pretty consistent throughout the evening with Bridget Remington and Anna Taddeo going back and forth. And Joshua Ferguson, 404 votes in the town of Pittsford. So again, Brian Collmore, 755, Dave Weeks, 588, Terry Williams, 551, Bridget Remington, 565, Anna Taddeo, 455, just 10-vote difference there, and Joshua Ferguson, 404. That's the town of Pittsford. Again, just to consistently, Becca Ballant for Congress, 592, and Liam Madden, 528. So again, Becca Ballant just winning across the board for United States Congress here in Rutland County, and same for United States Senator Peter Welch, 690 votes, followed by Gerald Malloy at 564. So, and the only other one there, of course, the governor, 996 votes for Phil Scott versus Brenda Siegel's 191. So the governor just a clean sweep for re-election to governor of the state of Vermont. And so I'm just going to, let's see, we have one more, which is Mount Holly, which is now this Rutland-Windsor district, Mount Holly. And in the Senate race, again, Brian Collmore, top vote getter with 319 votes. Brian Collmore, 319 votes. Followed by, and this is all much closer for the following it looks like Ontario 295, so second place in the town of Mount Holly. Ontario 295 votes. So Brian Collmore 319, Ontario 295, followed by Terry K. Williams at 293. 293, so the top three there, Brian Collmore, Ontario, and Terry Williams. But then followed very closely in this tie for the fourth, Bridget Remington with 291, and Dave Weeks with 291, and then Joshua Ferguson with 275. So very, very close in the town of Mount Holly, but Brian Collmore clearly top vote getter with 319. Again, followed by Terry Williams, Ontario with 295, Terry Williams with 293. So these are your top three out of the six running for 3 seats in the Rutland County Senate race. And then fourth, tied up between Dave Weeks at 291 and Bridget Remington at 291, and then Joshua Ferguson at 275. See if there's anything else outstanding there, but there isn't. So I'm just going to jump to a couple of quick mentions that I wanted to take advantage of the airtime tonight to let you know. Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow on Wednesday, if anyone wanted to get a vaccination for COVID with the new bivalent booster, that is going to be available at Brock Community Action tomorrow. And that is from 10 to 1. The Vermont Department of Health will be on site at 45 Union Street, right here in Rutland City, providing free the bivalent booster, which is COVID, and flu shots. So the flu is something they're talking about, this convergence of these viruses with the flu and COVID happening at the same time, and then RSV is another conversation. But they will be providing flu shots through the Vermont Department of Health. They will be providing COVID bivalent booster shots. That's sort of the fifth one out there, which I've already got. And that is a walk-in clinic, if you will, provided by their great staff at the Vermont Department of Health at our location at Brock Community Action in our conference room tomorrow from 10 to 1. Walk in and come by and see us and get that boosted up or get that flu shot so that you're good to go for this fall and this winter, since apparently the flu has gotten a jump on the rest of us this year so far. As we're hearing, and it's beginning to spread around a little early. So not a bad idea. If you want to get it, you can get it tomorrow on Wednesday, November 9th. And then following that, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, our traditional event in Rutland County that kicks off the holiday season, Stuff a Bus. So Stuff a Bus will be happening at both Price Chopper and Hannaford in Rutland. And it'll be from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. on Thursday and Friday, and 6 to noon on Saturday at Price Chopper, and then 9 to 5 Thursday and Friday at Hannaford, and 9 to noon on Saturday at Hannaford. So a great opportunity for shopping at either one of those places to donate what we call funds for food this year, being COVID safe and flu safe. Funds for food will be happening at those two locations, but it'll be a meet and greet with the folks from the Brock Community Food Shelf, the Rutland Community Cupboard, and the Salvation Army, there to meet and greet you and welcome your donation, along with all of our friendly radio personalities from Catamount Radio, our friendly personalities, many of which are coming out of retirement for this event, that being Terry J. and Nancy Gordon to mention too. But we appreciate their support, along with the one we couldn't do it without, of course, the Marble Valley Regional Transit District, the bus. So Stuff a Bus happening Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, the 10th, 11th, and 12th. Pre-holiday help to make sure that none of our neighbors go hungry this holiday season and throughout the winter with this annual Stuff a Bus event. We hope to see you down there. Please stop by and say hello and make a donation, and we'd really appreciate the opportunity to say hi to you and thank you for your gift, as well as turn that around to immediately, again, continuing to feed our neighbors in need through these community food shelves. So there's those commercials I wanted to mention tonight because they're happening now, this week, and since the advantage of being live and local. But let me just give you an interesting, one of the things we haven't talked about tonight is Justice of the Peace, and we actually, the staff here at PEG TV, who I want to thank before the night's over, and that's this note. But let me just rattle off real quick the results of the Justice of the Peace for Rutland City, with Cheryl Hooker, who was our senator, is now Justice of the Peace officially tonight, as you have chosen her as top vote getter in Rutland City with 3,052 votes for Justice of the Peace. All of these names are going to be familiar to you. Some good people here. Carl Mazzarello, 2,667 votes. George Hooker, another familiar face, 2,644 votes. Followed by Peg Flory, 2,590 votes, followed by Barry Beauchamp, 2,538 votes, followed by Paul Clifford, 2,524 votes, then Chris Bove, 2,516 votes, Larry Coopely, who is no longer a state representative as of January, now being replaced in his neighborhood by Eric McGuire, who ran for that seat, but he is now a Justice of the Peace, Larry Coopely, with 2,516 votes, followed by myself, Tom Donahue, with 2,470 votes, and then Joe Barbagallo, who's also a Rutland City Alderman at this time, at 2,465 votes, and William Knott, who is on the program tonight and is a state representative, is now a Justice of the Peace with 2,458 votes, followed by Mary Howard, who was reelected tonight to her seat in the legislature with 2,285 votes. And again, another state representative retiring from that seat, filling an interim spot on the school board, and is now a Justice of the Peace, none other than Peter Fagan, 2,190 votes for Peter Fagan. And 14th place, Tom DePoy, who's a city alderman, 2,190 votes. And that last seat, because they take 15 out of typically 30, 15 Republicans, 15 Democrats, put their names on the ballot, a total of 30 typically, and the city elects 15, of which the 15th spot goes to Maureen Sullivan with 1,955 votes. So congratulations to those top 15. And it is a post that I can say from experience that does a number of things, including this past year, we did the redistricting plan after the census. We did the aldermanic recount, as well as the city tax appeals, which is acting as the Board of Civil Authority for residents that are appealing their taxes, not satisfied with the decision of the assessor, then comes to the Board of Civil Authority. And then they can do weddings as well. So this year we did all of the above. It was a busy year for us. And it is an unpaid position, but just one of those community service roles that many of us have been willing to provide and serve the city in that capacity over the years. So with that, I do want to take a moment now, since we have one, to thank this great staff here at PEG TV. It's an amazing team that pulled this all together. You can see a lot of paper in front of me because there was a lot of work done in advance to prepare for tonight, so we can tell you who's winning for House Rep and Senate and other votes throughout the year that happened, like the March elections and so forth. And that is led by Tom Leopold. Tom is the executive director here, does an absolutely tremendous job, and I have said and without hesitation that I believe PEG TV in Rutland County is the best community access station in Vermont, and probably competitive in that rank across New England. And that's led by their executive director, Tom Leopold. And then, of course, Chelsea Tice, who was in charge of this channel, is now in charge of the other two. And Nancy Donahue, of course, has been here a long time, and part of the team. Rich Elnicki, who's now doing this channel, trying to fill the shoes of Chelsea Tice. Sarah Nadler, you'll see a lot of her work on social media. Jim Boughton's here, and Jim is a long time, pretty popular fella in the region and doing a lot of things around here that is pretty familiar. We have William Chmielewski and Stephen Wilson, Stephanie's son, Greg McCormick, which is brother of Chris McCormick, and then my son too, Chris Donahue. So what a team, and it takes a team to pull this kind of live coverage off. I just get to report it. They do so much behind the scenes, and the investment they make in this facility year-round to keep up with the technology and to provide you tremendous community access to so much, as you know, as watching this channel, is happening each day and each week and each month of the year here at PEG TV, both on the cable television as well now, of course, as the live stream on their website, pegtv.com, and they're very active on social media and live stream a lot of this and do great public service announcements on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as well. So kudos to Rutland Region Community Television, PEG TV, and the team here at PEG TV that I just named off, led by Tom Leopold. Very fortunate to have them in Rutland County, and I'm proud to be part of the volunteer team here at PEG TV. So at this point, I think we're getting close to running out of new material. So the only other thing I might mention tonight was the fact that, I think the mayor had indicated the number of people voting, and I think it's important for us to recognize how important it is to vote, as Art Peterson had said, and how important it is that that you vote in one manner or another. And now that votes are mailed out, it gives people an opportunity who might have mobility issues or just not have the convenience of getting to the polls, that ability to access that right of yours, that privilege here that we have in the United States of America and in Vermont and Rutland County to vote for our candidates for elected office. We see a lot of things going on around the world, and we realize that those are done by people who aren't elected and where the people have no say or their voices are tamped down. And we're very, very fortunate to live in this country and to be able to elect our officials and have our voices heard at the polls, and then to be able to come on and talk about those results freely on community access television. So that was brought up by the guests that we've had on the program tonight, and we certainly do want to thank all of you for taking the time today to vote and creating these results because it is so important for them to be independently elected by their peers and then representing us in Montpelier and in Washington, and then again on the local level, as we will see in March, where we have this year the offices of the mayor up for re-election. 6 Rutland City aldermen will be elected, I should say, in March. And it goes every other year is an even or an odd year. And it goes between 6 aldermen and 5, and then back to 6, a total of 11. This year is the 6th. We'll also have 3 school commissioners up for election, and a city treasurer and a city assessor. And that's just Rutland City, not even counting the towns around us. So there'll be a lot going on in March, and we'd encourage you to come out and vote again then for representation at your town level and your city level, which is really equally important to the state and the congressional level as well, when your voices are heard, when you elect the people that are speaking for you. So I'm just going to take a look at the time here, and see if, I think what we're going to do at this point is, I'm going to check this text from Tom Burdett, and he says the coffee is on. So we may need that. I think what we're going to do, if we don't have any further results, is probably just call it a wrap for this evening. We do appreciate you tuning in, and we do appreciate being able to bring all these results to you regarding these local races, especially the House and the Senate, and hear from some of our elected officials as well, which is wonderful tonight. So at this point, seeing nothing further, I think we will wrap it up here at PEG TV on election night coverage, and we'll look forward to seeing you in March again for the same version, more local. But with that, thank you, PEG TV. Thank you, viewers. I'm Tom Donahue, your host for live election night coverage. Have a great night.